Hello and welcome to today's edition of Sirpeter show. Emmanuel, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
First of all, let's dive right in. Let's begin with a definition of patience. And what is patience and what does it mean for someone to be categorized as a patient person?
Patience is the ability to wait reasonably, even in the midst of crisis. One who finds himself in conflict, when that person is able to gracefully go through the tough moment without repining or reviling, without really expressing a slice of cantankerous display, such a person is said to be patient. So his ability to wait patiently, reasonably, and gracefully, even when one faces a very tough moment. So a patient person is one who takes things easy and does not run away because moments are tough. He's able to persevere in what he does.
Can that be, like say, was someone is described as a patient person, and another person is described as the person has the virtue of perseverance or persistence? Is there a distinction between patience, perseverance, and persistence? Or are they just synonyms?
I think those terms are very close to each other as though hand in glove. You have endurance, you have patience, you have perseverance. All these are terms that express the same. They are synonyms of the same expression of emotion. So I think they are very similar to each other.
In this age, that we have instant everything. Like we see photo wait and take, instant food, instant dress, instant everything. And people now find it difficult to wait or to exercise this virtue of patience. So how does one go about cultivating this virtue?
Patience as a virtue is a gift. You can say it's a gift of the Holy Spirit. So first of all, someone should incline himself or herself to praying and asking God for the gift. You can ask God for anything, any gift at all. He can grant it to you. So I will encourage everyone to ask God for the gift of patience. Secondly, patience can be cultivated if people can learn the art of silence and meditation. Actually, as I speak to you, we are in a world where people like talking, making a noise, but we need to premeditate before undertaking actions. There are lots of things that appear as though on smoky screens. There are conclusions that are hastily made in our life today. But if one can be silent at some moments, meditating, because that's the best way to domesticate one's mind and the ideas that come into the mind of the human being. If one can meditate, the person can acquire the virtue of patience. Another is not to be expecting too much. Don't expect too much. Moderate your expectations. In life generally, there are people who have very high watermark of expectations. They think that things could be done in a hurry and that people must talk this way or do this to them and all that. People must treat them to this or that. But honestly speaking, one who wants to be a patient person will not expect too much from people, so that if they go below one's expectation, one will not be disappointed. Again, a patient person is a focused person. If you want to be patient, be focused on your goal, so that the distractions that come, because you will always find people who will distract you, you will find things distracting you, but while being focused, all the things that come as distractions, you treat them as such. A patient person also comes to that point by acquiring, first of all, what we call emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is a new brand in psychology, social psychology, where a person is able to acquire the act of self-mastery. It has to do with self-management, emotional balance, emotional stability, it's emotional quotient. It talks about the level of our emotional managerial ability. So if we are able to manage ourselves emotionally, people will not just be controlling us, controlling our emotions or remote controlling our emotions. We're able to have self-possession, self-control, We do things at the time we want to do them and the kind of things we desire to do. So, someone who must be patient is someone who must invest in sacrifices. The person must make sacrifices. There are certain things that come our way that don't require responses. There are troubles that come you need to ignore. A patient person is one who overlooks certain things. Sometimes the person even takes rubbish from people, not because he cannot react, but because the focus of the person is too important as to concentrate on rats. When you are on a very important mission, you don't go about chasing rats. There are some persons who attack you, not because they find you unacceptable, but just that they are jealous. They don't understand why you should be where you are. Some of them are throwing stones at you because they find you to be a ripened fruit. So if you realize that those throwing stones at you are trying to pluck the fruits in you, instead of coming down to the mud with them, instead of throwing down unripe fruits for them, you ignore them and move on. It's just like saying that when a madman takes the clothes of a person taking his or her bath, the person has no reason chasing the madman because that's a distraction. Two of them may be considered mad. So if one is reasonable, one has to ignore all sorts of things, make sacrifices, ignore things that are really not necessary in life. Another is to be humble. When you are a humble person, on your garden, the shrub of patience will come in. Because you look at things from a humble perspective, you speak like a humble person, you relate with people humbly. And with that, you will have no reason to be foolhardy, to be hard at people, as to cross the line of morality and consciousness that builds relationship.
Wow, this is incredible. And already I can, it leads me directly to the next question. Because in your book, Patience, the daughter of fortitude, you quoted Blessed Maria Fusco, where you noted that he noted that patience is the means to win and overcome oneself. That is the safeguard and sustenance of all virtues. In the light of that statement, what are some of the career benefits of cultivating this virtue of patience?
When you actually invest in the virtue of patience, you have what we call self-control. You persevere in life. You have self-possession. You are in charge of what happens around you. The operational space, the ego boundaries, and every other thing, psychological boundaries around you, you are aware of them. You are the one that determines what hits you. You are also the one that determines what passes by. So a patient person is one who has self-possession. Is also someone who has inner peace because he works hard to maintain it. You see, on our minds, according to the psychiatrist Scott Peck, in his book On the Road Less Traveled, he talks about the fact that the human mind has two faculties. One is the faculty, the domain of anger. The other is the domain of euphoria. And things that happen to us trigger these two areas. There's something that will happen to you. You immediately get very excited. Like if someone sends you an alert of about 500,000, you just see that, you just get excited, you begin to smile, even when there's no reason for that. But there's something someone will tell you, you get offended almost immediately. This happens not only to human beings, but also to animals. There's a place you want to touch a dog, and they will tell you, no, don't touch the tail, don't touch, because it will get angry. So amongst animals, we have this challenge. And so my advice to people is that we must develop the habit of exciting more of the euphoria center than the anger center. If you have the habit of exciting more or triggering more the anger center, you will end up being aggressive all the time because everything around you will appear irritable. But if you cultivate the attitude of exciting the euphoria center, there are things that will happen to you, especially things you cannot change at the moment. You just ignore them. Some you smile to them and you move on. So that idea of self-possession, having inner peace, persevering in all situations, no matter how tough they come, is what patience does to somebody who is in a career. Because the master or your boss can say things you don't like. Instead of quitting, when you go to the next place, quitting from the former place, how are you sure that the next person may not say things? Unless and until it becomes very abusive, or your dignity is devalued or bastardized in a way, you should be able to endure certain little challenges that come on your way to the apex of success.
Wonderful. This is rather very, very incredible. We know that mentorship is like a shortcut to success, and the best way to grow is to look upon your heroes, or what we call icons. So there are people we can look upon in our journey towards patience, in our quest to cultivate patience. People can say icons of patience. There are people or icons that we can imitate in our journey towards developing this virtue.
There are so many of them. In modern time, we often talk about Nelson Mandela, we talk about Mahatma Gandhi, we talk about a number of persons, even here in Nigeria. There are a lot of them who have sacrificed a lot. Though generally in my book, Patience, the Daughter of Fortitude, I actually used some icons that I think have really made a whole lot of impression in my life. I talked about somebody like Saint Maximilian Kolbe. I talked about Blessed Thomas Maria Fusco. I also talked about the Blessed Virgin. These are spiritual personalities, Jesus himself and God. In fact, of all the virtues and qualities that we attribute to God, I don't find any as appropriate and as compelling, as intriguing as the virtue of patience. A lot of people speak against God, even the atheists. They refuse to recognize him. They do things against him, and yet, as Matthew chapter 5 tells us, he still allows his rain to fall on everyone. And this is the agapeic love, the love that is beyond conquest. It is called unconquerable benevolence, the goodwill that is not conquered even by an enemy. So when I look at how God endures, how he overlooks our childish displays, I think I appreciate that, and I want to learn a lot from him. Jesus too was very patient. While in the world, Jesus had all the opportunities with his powers to, be revengeful. He knew quite earlier in his life the challenges ahead. He actually endured until the final moment, even when it wasn't easy. The Blessed Virgin Mary too. She had all sorts of challenges, but at the end of the day, she endured until the end. Reading this book on patience, we can really see how I took time to explaining what I find very interesting about this personality. As for Maximilian Kolbe, at the time of the Second World War, when many of the Jewish people were exterminated within the Nazi stuff, he was one of those whom in July, one of those who were caught and kept in the concentration camp. And he was not to be killed. About 10 persons were picked up to be killed because of one person who escaped. As a priest, Maximilian Kolbe, listening to the cry of one person who was among those to be killed, decided to replace the person. And they were killed by starvation. So for a long period of time, from July until the 14th of August, they were left without food. And he found himself praying even in the midst of this challenge. I find him an icon, a symbol, an ambassador, a matter of patience and charity. Also, as I said earlier, we have Blessed Maria Thomas Fusco, who in many ways, he lost his parents at very young age, his younger brother, and a number of things that happened to him. But he kept the steam, he kept the energy until the end. I find these people very encouraging figures in my life, and I try to imitate them by being patient with myself, patient with my neighbor, and even patient with God, not expecting that he's going to turn the clouds black or blue at any given time that I feel so.
Wow, incredible. I want to take you on this book. Personally, I see it as a treasure trove of education in terms of cultivating this virtue of patience. But on the other hand, it is quite counterintuitive, because of the kind of world we live in. Progress is measured by how fast one achieves whatever is set out to do, the goals you set out. How fast do you get it? How fast do I buy a car, I build a house, or I get something done? So, but in this book, you argue that patience, inundates one who possesses it with a great deal of dignity and solemnity, and that its acquisition provides one the audacity to graciously advance in life. Whereas, on the other hand, the way the world thinks, for you to advance in life, you have to do it fast now, get it right done now. So how do you, what was your thought while writing the book in terms of how do you try to talk to the world who sees things from the other angle?
What I think, this saying that jack of all trade and master of none. There are people who get into everything very speedily, and at the end of the day, they are not able to possess or account for anything, with surety and with confidence. This book advocates that if you want to do anything, go for something and do it well. Don't rush into something. In music, we used to say poco a poco, take it piecemeal gradually. If you rush in, you are going to rush out. We also know in life, people say you look before you leap. There are people who rush into doing things, they jump from a story building only to remember that it was from a story building they were jumping. They did not look before jumping. It occurs in business, in education, in decision making, policies and all that. Governments have been hasty in most of the decisions that have been made. Individually also we have the capacity of making choices, and it's not been funny. People rush into making choices, taking decisions, making policies, and at the end of the day, they regret. A lot of persons who are in prison are there because they have come to their senses. Initially, they found themselves just because someone slapped you, you feel you should slap back. And if you don't do that, you will not be fine. So we have a world where to prove to you that I'm strong, I must give it back to you, I must show you that I'm strong in many ways. But patience tells you that the best way to prove you are strong is not to destroy things. Because those that are in prison have now realized, look at the story of the prodigal son in Luke chapter 15. The young man told himself without premeditating, I must leave this place. He was enthused by his inordinate desire of possessing himself and his future. He took his father's property and left. But the scripture says he came to his senses, meaning that as at the time he took this decision, he didn't know fully what he was doing. And so poor knowledge affects us a lot. A patient person is one who takes things gradually. He thinks before acting. And when he is to do something, he does it well. And he can vouch for what he has done because he will be proud of it at the end of the day.
In your the other answer, you mentioned what when someone is abusive or when a relationship degenerates to the point of abuse. Someone, you didn't quite complete the statement there. But my question is based on that. In marriages, offices, and life generally, one sometimes meets a partner, a boss, or a colleague who tends to be abusive. So do you suggest that someone who finds himself in such an abusive relationship, either in marriage or in the offices, should still remain there, or should keep exercising the virtue of patience?
As I said earlier, there are people who rush into almost everything. And marriage is one of those institutions that many people rush into. You can bear with the fact that you can agree with me that a lot of marriages today don't last. And the reason is simply that people don't take time. They are not patient enough to know what they want and go for what they want. At the end of the day, you just see somebody who finds a lady pretty or who finds a man pretty. The next thing is, let's go to the altar or let's go and see your people. So for me, it is not enough to rush into getting anybody and go and start transforming the home into the battle between Iraq and Kuwait or Russia and Ukraine. No. People must take time to investigate. Investigate not only the person you want to get married to, but the family background, the lineage, the pedigree, antecedents that characterize the person's background. The Catholic Church prescribes 3 years of courtship. This period will help the man or the woman to know the kind of illnesses that are associated with the family. It is good to know what you want to battle with. Also, there are people who are troublesome. There are people who pretend. You need to get some time off to understand their temperamental natures and a lot of other factors. When you are able to learn this, you will know who to settle with. So I advise young people who want to get into marriage to be patient while searching for their life partner. Everything begins. If you want to solve a problem, begin from the source. That is why we talk about radix radices, going to the roots. So for a man who wants to get married or a woman, take time to learn about your partner. Be sure that the person you want to get settled with is somewhat compatible with you. When you have established this and marriage begins, every other thing that comes could be accidental. But don't jump into marriage with a bunch of problems. When you get to marriage and you see that the other is abusive, the church also recommends that you watch that. We do not have these saying that when once you get into problem, there should be separation. You study the problem. You have to talk with people. Get counselors. Let people advise both parties involved in these relationships. And when all these is shown to be having no headway, there is need, as the church will say, for separation in bed and born, at least for a while. The woman can leave, or the man can leave for a while, or there should be separation for a moment while they try to heal some wounds. But I advise people, the Igbos have a saying that Agwabumma, character is beauty. I advise people to learn how to cultivate good character while they get into marriage. You are no longer the one involved. 2 persons are involved. Marriage is about evolution. Evolution in psychology, evolution in biology, evolution in spirituality, evolution in natural and existential growth. So one person cannot just behave as if he or she is the monopoly of excellence. You must know where the line ends and where the other person's freedom begins. When there is this understanding and people are ready to learn, honestly speaking, we can correct some errors, we can let go of mistakes, we can forgive each other and restructure the union. But where every person has this ego that swells, the self-marketization of one's ego or super naturalization of oneself, 2 captains cannot drive the ship at the same time. So this is where we find the ship of marriage crashing, at on the high sea. All right.
In terms of office, when you have an abusive boss.
When you have an abusive boss or a colleague, do your best. If it is too much and you think there is an alternative, you try your alternative. Go to somewhere else. But where you can express yourself to the boss and say, please, I wouldn't know where the source of my problem with you started. If there is an opening in that way, you can speak to the boss or speak to the boss through someone who is closer to the boss. It could be the wife of the boss or anybody, but there is no reason to live under an abusive person because psychologically it is draining and we don't need bad blood or negative energies around us. It can lead to a lot of illnesses. So we don't encourage people to abuse those working under them, and we don't also expect people who have been abused to live under that condition for a long time. Look for a solution. Speak to somebody who can speak to the boss. And on your own part, if there is something that you do that the boss is not too conversant with or the boss does not like, you can avoid it so that the boss will stop tongue lashing you or bad mouthing you at all times. All right.
Okay, incredible. In the book, you talked about factors that annihilate the practice of this virtue of patience. So, and these factors that are causing this, have a kind of consequences to it. So, what are the consequences of impatience?
First of all, the factors you were talking about, one of the factors, there are things that are at crossroads, that they don't agree with patience. One of it is jealousy. When once somebody is deeply jealous, the person will not see the totality of the other. What he sees is a part of the other and what he wishes to see, because epistemology and anthropology has this thing about the human being, that knowledge is gained through human perspective. Each person learns by the person's perspective. Somebody who is jealous is approaching the other from his own perspective and will not want to see things from the other person's own perspective. So jealousy is a vice that cannot accommodate patience. Again, you have hot-temperedness. A hot-tempered person cannot in any way accommodate the virtue of patience, because every time the person will be flying off the handle. The person will be flying off the handle. You also have what I call undue sense of perfectionism. If you have an undue sense of perfectionism, everything someone says or everybody around you will irritate you. You feel that you are perfect and people should talk this way or that way. People should act this way. And when they don't meet your standard, you feel irritated. These particular vices, jealousy, hot-temperedness, and undue sense of perfection, are factors that cannot cohere or coexist with the virtue of patience. They lead to consequences such as hasty conclusions. When you actually are jealous or you have impatience, you will conclude on things too hastily, only to realize much later that you ought to have given a little thought to that. Another is that when you are impatient, you lose people around you. You make people uncomfortable. When you stay with people and every time you are quarreling, you are fighting with them, people take you to be either a demigod or an angel, someone who is not like them, who is not a human being. And so people avoid you. So this is why impatience is very, very consequential to human relationships.
Wonderful. You talked about being patient with yourself, and being patient with the other, and being patient with God. So can you throw more light on that?
Yes, everything requires a gradual process. When you plant the seed yam, you need time for it to pick up and then bring up something new. The yam tendrils, the garden and all that tell us that there is gradual growth and development of everything. In the same way, the human being must be patient with himself. You must be patient with yourself, because every day is an opportunity to improve, to evolve in all aspects of life. Where it is not clicking today, you can always do more. Assure yourself that tomorrow may be better. On a particular day, you can run into hard luck or bad luck, but you don't have to allow that define you. Pick your pieces up, move on, encourage yourself, and continue. And so also, I talked about being patient with the other, with your neighbor. Sometimes we look at the other, we conclude on things. But as I have tried explaining in this book, there are certain things that are not clear to us. There are sometimes you listen to an echo and you think it's real. There are also times that while driving on the road, you see a mirage and you think it is real, water on the way, but it's not so. Some of these things appear to us as if they are real, but they are not. So in life, there are certain things people do, we might conclude on them, but we have no reason to conclude. We must be patient with people. We must give them a second chance. We must allow them be. There are also people that speak to us about others, castigating them. But generally in life, we must learn how to approach people as they appear to us. Be patient with them when they hurt us, and life will continue. With God, I will say that, honestly speaking, many of us have come to believe in that. God is our bank. You go to Him and withdraw. You go and shout at Him at any point in time. But life is not that way. We must be patient with God. It is not easy with God, controlling the world. Even the sun that rises in the morning, okay, we usually talk about the rising of the sun. Yeah. We look as if the sun is moving. When the clouds are heavy, It is not easy too with the sun, you understand, to shine and appear. So generally in life, everything is struggling. God himself is not finding it easy. And so we must be patient with him in the decisions he makes. There are certain things he does for us that we will not understand now. But if we are patient with him, perhaps things may get clearer. I tell you a story, a little story. A certain young lady took her clothes to a tailor to mend it. There was this hole beside the pocket. Please mend my cloth, the lady said. And the tailor took the cloth, immediately tore the whole pocket apart. The lady said, that's not what I wanted you to do. I just wanted you to mend the hole by the pocket. And the tailor said, I know. So the lady decided to watch. While watching, she realized that the tailor refolded and placed the pocket beautifully on the cloth and sewed it round. It came out better than the lady when the lady brought it. So the point of emphasis here is that the lady came to realizing that the tailor truly knew what he was doing, but the lady did not know. The same with our relationship with God. There are certain moments that things don't go the way we want them, but God knows. He knows why he has to tear the entire pocket. He knows what he wants to amend in our bodies and in our souls. Sometimes we just need to be patient with him. Let him do his will and let his will prevail.
Okay.
So we need to be patient with ourselves, with our neighbor, and with God at each point in time. Not expecting too much from people. Not expecting too much from God. However, trying our best, knowing that things are possible.
Okay, incredible. Just like a final word before you go to our audience, can you share from a personal experience where you have been hit by this virtue of patience? And then give our viewers a final word on patience.
Yes, I will say on a personal note, there was a particular day while I was the leader of students somewhere in Benue where we had a novitiate experience. And I did posting for students and areas to go on Sunday apostolic work experience. We call it apostolic. And when I posted a particular person, he came ranting at me. Why do you like posting me to this particular place? What is wrong with you? Why are you doing this? So as he said all that, I just looked at him. I actually had the powers to tell him, I will report you to the priest in charge. I will do this to you. But what I told him was, I'm sorry. I just can't explain how that came out from my mouth, even when I had all the powers and the faculties to handle him. I said, I'm sorry. I will see what I can do. Do you know, a few minutes later, this fellow came to me and told me that he was sorry too. I was happy. He was happy. But if I had flown the handle at that moment, it would have ended on a bad note. Generally in life, I try to be patient with people. It's not easy, but you have to cultivate it. I buy books on anger management. I buy books on emotional intelligence, and I read them to see how to persevere in life, even amidst challenges and storms. I also have developed the art of talking when I want and not when people want me to talk. I have also decided that I will get angry when I want, not when people want me to get angry. When I was doing philosophy, from my philosophy too, I decided that as I wake up in the morning, I would talk only 2 or 3 times a day, apart from greeting people. So I found myself throughout the day not talking much, not contributing to too many unnecessary discussions. As I speak to you, people will be talking around me. I will be reminding myself that, remember, you are to talk and contribute to talks only 2 times, unless the ones that are very important. Sometimes, at the confine, that is towards the end of the day, when I'm having meditation on how the day had been, I came to the realization of the fact that I had not even spoken, officially, apart from greeting people, I had not even spoken up to 3 times. And some people started seeing me as a serious person, somebody who was not just running his mouth here and there. It contributed to pepping up my personality such that, because most times we get angry or we lose ourselves when we begin to argue with people, when we begin to indulge in unnecessary discussions that put us off, we become restless. My advice to everybody is that you too can cultivate the attitude of not getting angry unnecessarily, of being patient. For instance, if you are arguing with somebody, remember that the person will want to win the point. Who wins the point is not what matters. I will tell you, at some moments I have told someone who is interested in winning the point, I told the person, okay, take the cup, congratulations, you have won. At other times I've told some persons that, okay, let's end the argument here. Hold your opinion, let me hold my own. It saves you a lot. Instead of talking on until that moment when you cannot greet each other again. It happens to people. Know when you can end the argument, know when you can avoid unnecessary arguments, you will have peace of mind. Patience brings peace. It brings self-control. Subscribe to it. Read the book and see how to cultivate this art, and you will not regret it. We need to be patient. The politicians, the police people all over the streets, many of them are impatient. You see a car speeding up, all that comes to the mind is how to raise the gun, how to threaten people. The politicians want to lock up people, and you hear them boasting, whereas the life we have does not belong to us. You know, we are only custodying this life. It belongs to God. At any time, the Lord can take it. We must be humble and patient with people so that we can make the world a better place. These are my few words, my few last words for you.
Wow. I'm very grateful for all these points you really shared. And thank you so much for coming on Sirpeter show today.
Thank you.
Okay. To our fans out there, this is patience, how patience can transform your life, and it's quite an interesting conversation with Father Ukata today. So, even though our civilization has made us to feel guilty and to feel like maybe even responsible if we don't achieve something fast, Father Ukata has taught us today the need for us to cultivate the virtue of patience, as he has outlined the benefits for us. So, I will encourage us to put it into action and exemplify it in our own lives. Importantly, to learn more on this virtue of patience, I advise you to get this book, Patience, the Daughter of Fortitude. And how will they get them?
They can get them from bookshops around, and they can also, I think, they can connect my number, because that is my 13th book.
Wow.
I have another one, the 14th book. So, in most of my books, you can find my number. You can connect me or check some prominent bookshops, you may find them.
Okay.
And it's very affordable.
Incredible. So if you need a copy, just go to the comment section and ask for it, so that we just send you the number or the nearest bookshop to you to deliver the copy for you. So thank you for watching Sirpeter show today. Like, comment, and share, so that we all can better our world one deed at a time. Thank you.
Thank you.